All right, so this is arrays. This is what we are going to talk about today. And let me tell you something about arrays. It is, I would say, the most important concept which you all ought to know. I mean, I know I always say this for all the topics, but yeah, arrays is something which really can determine whether you're going to crack the interview or not, because there are a lot many questions which deals with arrays. And if you are very familiar with the arrays, your logic building also enhances. And if you are weak in arrays, then your logic will not ever get developed. Okay, so it's very, very important not only listening to me what I'm trying to explain you, but also try to practice. Another thing which I wanted to talk about is the code which I'm writing here, right? This is not only for demonstration purposes. This is something for you to try it out, right? So we give an assignments after the session just so that we could kind of enforce you to do something. But whatever I have here, this is, I'm writing this and I'm collating this for your benefit, so that you don't have to surf internet and try, and because when you go to internet you can find a zillion examples and you get confused which to follow, what to do, right? So I have collated this, I've created this so that you get to see how the implementation really happens, and you also get to try it out on your own. And we also have a ready-made solution, so you can just map your way of doing it versus what I have done here. Okay, this is not really something which is only there for demonstration, so I will just talk about it and then you will just listen it and then just end of story. I want you guys to try each and every class which I've created here, right? uh, just go through it, just see how I have done it, how it's written, and then try to do it on your own machine, own browser, or own copy, right? So as far as Java is concerned, you really don't need to have um, Eclipse with you. You don't, because why I'm saying, I mean, you all ought to have Eclipse. Without having a gun you can't fight anyone, isn't it? So you should be arranging a laptop as soon as possible, because that's your weapon. You can't be called as a soldier if you don't have a weapon. You want to become a soldier, you don't have a weapon, you are not any good for nothing. So try to minimize that problem among yourself. But sometimes it might take some time, maybe a week or 2 or 3 weeks. It should not go ahead more than 2 weeks or 3 weeks that you are not having a laptop or something, because else you'll not really learn anything after end of this course and all. So really try to arrange it. I mean, I have reserved these topics for the end of the session. Let me not digress, but all I'm trying to say here is what I'm examples which I'm going to show you here. You have to try them out on your own. Okay. Right, let me again go here. Right, so why I'm saying arrays, because when you have arrays, that means you really have to iterate it, right? And you can really iterate an arrays in many ways, right? You have to do lot of operations in arrays, and that iteration usually involve the for loops and while loops, and lot of conditioning has to happen for different cases. So it just by arrays, for loops, and if conditions, you can build the entire logic. And that's all it is what we have in Java. Everything revolves around looping, data management, in the sense runtime data management using arrays or collections and all. Only the ways are different, but that's all. Any coding or programming languages, variables, you have data, you have to iterate data, and you have to loop through it. Of course, iterate is what it is. And then you have to condition, in the sense you have to put some conditions so that you can get desired results. Now all the classes and methods, they are just how you will structure this logic. Real logic building happens in using for loop, ifs, and data collections. Other than that, classes, inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation, all those things are ways how you can effectively organize your data or structure your data. But real logic is this. So this is what I meant when I said this is most important. Otherwise, of course, encapsulation, polymorphism, classes, they all are important topics, but they are just the structural part of it, how you will structure your code. The logic building really happens in data for loops and conditions. And this is why I'm saying these are the most fundamental concepts which you all need to learn. Without this, you will really find it very difficult to build logic when it comes to API automation or Selenium automation and whatever we do. Okay, so try not to miss this opportunity to practice this. Anyway, as I said, I reserved this talk for later. Let me just quickly show you that. Okay, this is my GitHub repository. Everyone is aware of it, and it has few folder structures. So I'll just try to talk about it again. On the first README, there is nothing. So all the basic Java stuff which I am keeping inside miscellaneous Java concepts. Okay, and inside this you have to go one level deep, and under this you are going to see different folders, so packages, and inside basics you will see all those concepts. Okay. Now inside arrays, I have now started keeping a README file. This README file is kind of interpreted like this. Okay, so this is where you're going to see the concept which I'm going to talk about in the class. So I'll make it a habit to put this kind of textual stuff, with the code, embed with the code, so that you find it easy to find, kind of revise things in a single link. You don't have to go here and there for what we discussed in the class. Anyway, so arrays we discussed. Let me first show you a basic example, a very simple example of arrays. Now, if you don't really know what arrays is, it's just the collection of variables. Okay, I am assuming so far you know what is a variable, right? So what is a variable? This is a variable int a. This is a variable. This is a declaration. When we say a is equal to 7, it becomes declaration as well as initialization, both combined into one. Okay. Now, what if you have more data to store? Now the problem becomes bigger because you have many data to store. Okay. Now you have to store, let's say, 3 variables. Not a big deal, but what if you have to store 1,000 variables, 1,000 different data? Okay, how will you do it? For example, in a class, we have X number of 5 students. For example, we have 20 students in the class as of yet. But what if this number grows to 1,000 or 500 or maybe more than that? So I really cannot create that many variables. So what I do is I have to create a collection, right? Just for analogy, you know what Excel is? So Excel is again a collection. It's a 2-dimensional collection of data, right? So every cell in an Excel file is an entity, is a cell, a small cell which can store a specific kind of data. But what if you want to store a lot of data, right? Or a 2-dimensional data. So that's why we have rows and columns. And a single Excel file becomes a structure or data structure, right? Which you can pass between among yourselves. And that is how you're going to pass the data which is present inside the Excel. Something similar happens here in arrays, but only thing in arrays is right now what we are seeing here is a single dimensional array, and we are going to stick with the single dimensional array only today. Because if you not really sure about single dimensional, you will never understand what is 2-dimensional. 2-dimensional is something which is similar to, as I said, Excel, where we have rows and columns. But in a single dimensional, we have only one row, or you can say a column. Only one, in a sequence data can be set. It doesn't have a corresponding columns. Okay, so you can perceive it as a row, or you can perceive it as a column. It depends on you. So the idea is that instead of saving all of data into the separate variables, I'm going to collect this inside a single variable. Okay, but there's a way to define it, because how would Java know whether this is an array or this is a single standalone variable? So what to do that, I need to put these 2 square brackets. This is called as square brackets. This is called as curly brackets. This is called as square brackets. So we need to point this or write this in front of the variable name, or I should say at the end of the type of the data which I'm going to store inside this collection. Okay, so I'm going to write int. That means the type of data which I'm going to save inside this array is going to be integer. That's really not the case with the Excel, right? Because in Excel I can put numbers, I can put dates in a cell, I can put anything. But that is more advanced form of data collection, right? But in array, it's once you define what is going to be in that array, that is all you can save there. You cannot define it as integer and then start saving in strings or char there or boolean there. That's how the arrays work. On even the closest friend of arrays is, or the advanced version of arrays is array lists or collections interfaces. There you can do it if you don't define the type. So this is what is called as defining the type. If you're not defining the type, you really can't afford that. In array list and all, you really can. If you don't want to define a type, then you can go away with it, but not in array. So in array, you have to define what kind of data it's going to store. So since I have 3 variables and all of them are of type integer, so I can really create a variable of, or I can create a variable which is an array which will store an integer. That's just a syntax. I'm spending too much time in syntax to explain you what it is. Okay. Now, next is you need to write something like this. Now, what this is, you all know what is new. So new we use for creation of object, right? And we need to define here that what kind of data you're going to store with it. So this is a variable name. Consider this as a object, right? So you're creating an object, something of this sort, using an int. However, int is a primitive type, so you really can't create an object of it. So just to give an analogy, I'm trying to use new keyword to create an instance of a variable which is of type array, and that will also store my integer value. So this is the syntax. Okay. Now, next thing here is in the syntax, there is one extra thing, which is this, right? This, what is this? This is how I define the length of the array. So how long my array would be, that means how many cells my array is going to have, so that I could store some values in it. So if I'm saying the values are 6, that means I could store 6 variables or 6 different values in my array. Okay. So here, if you don't want to focus on this, you can just focus on the example which is present here. So here I'm saying int square brackets. That means I'm declaring it. Always remember this. This is declaration. This is a initialization. Here in the same step, I'm declaring as well as initializing. So if you want to initialize a single variable, you can just assign a value to it, right? Assign a value. This is declaration as well as initialization. But if you want to initialize a object, you always have to do a new keyword. Okay, so if you want to initialize any object, you have to put a new keyword. So this is your declaration of the object, of the variable. So consider this as an object, and this new keyword is used to initialize it. So I have initialized it, and I have said the value, there will be total of 5 variables which are going to be part of this. Now I can now store at least 5 such elements which are of the type integer. How to put these values in? Using indexes, right? So how index works, let me maybe show you from here. So how index works is, it starts from 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4. This gives me 5, that is 5 length. Okay. And in each element, I have these values. So 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50, right? Now, as I said in the beginning, you can perceive it as a row or you can perceive it as a column. It's up to you, because there is only one dimension here, right? Now, arrays also allow multi-dimensions. 2 dimensions it also allows. As I said, I'm not going to talk about it for now, but just for the sake of explanation, this is how you declare the multi-dimensional. Okay, and multi-dimensional, again, you need to visualize. If you want to visualize it, you can just picture an Excel file. So how the data is going to be saved inside Excel file exactly is going to be that. Okay, let me perhaps show you. This wasn't in my agenda, but I can't. I really and my palms are itching to show you that as well, because once we are past the topic, it becomes difficult to come back to it. Let me just show you that, just to visualization purposes. I don't have any examples for it, but just for uh, understanding purposes. Okay, so if let's say this is what it is, so then 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 0, sorry, 0 we have, 1, 2, no, 1 minute. 0, 1, 2, 3 perhaps, then 0, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. So this takes a shape of a two-dimensional data. Okay, so let me first show you something here. This is our original example, right? So it has a dimension of 5. That means right now, only this much is what I am declaring and trying to use. I don't worry about any of these values, right? So this is an example. Again, I don't want you to confuse. So let me just copy this and put it here. This is so forget about this for now. Just focus on this part. This is my original array, right? So we have, when I said 5, so it's going to have 5 fields from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It gives me 5. And when I say ARR, this variable is, what is the variable name? RV. The name is RV, reference variable. Now RV is the variable name. When I say RV0, it's going to access this, which is RV0. So now I'm saying the value in the RV0 is going to be 10. The moment this is executed, it's going to save 10 here. The moment this is going to get executed, this is going to save 20 here. Moment this is going to get executed, is going to save what? 30 here, right? And that is how it will fill the value. If you want to access the value, the same way you can access it. You can just say system.println RV0. When you say RV0, it's going to give you 10. Okay, so this is, I am kind of assigning the value, but I want to get a return out of it. I can just simply print this or use this, and it will give me the return of this element. I'm spending too much time into basics again, because there could be even if there is even a single person who just don't understand arrays, it's my duty to explain it. It's pretty basic stuff, but if you're not from computer background, maybe it becomes difficult for you to get. So that's the reason I'm going to too much basics. Now let's talk about the two-dimensional one. Okay. Now how the two-dimensional is declared. So if I just talk about, maybe I'll just modify this one. Public void 2D array, just for demonstration purpose so that we don't spoil the existing one. Now, okay, so how to declare two-dimensional? You just simply do this. And once you do this, you also have to declare the size of it. So you can understand this as, this is your row and this is your column, right? So I'm saying I need to have 2 values in the row and 3 values in the column perhaps. So the way it will get visualized, how you're going to visualize it like this. So 2 values, it said 2. I'm going to say 0, 1 and 3. So 0, 1, 2, only this much. Now, if I want to enter a value here, what I'm going to do? I'm going to say RV 0, 1, no, sorry, 0 is going to give me, I'm going to say 10. 0, 0 is what? This is what, how you work. This is how the coordinates work, right? So here in Excel, the coordinate system is actually in the numeric, or basically I should say alphanumeric. Columns are represented as in alphabets, and rows are in your numeric values. So what is the cell value of this is? This is B2, right? But in programming, it is 0, 0, right? So 0, 0 is your 10. Then when I say RV 1 and 3. Now I'll ask this question to you guys. When I say 1 and 3, where I'm going to save 30, where the code is going to save 30. 1 and 2, for example. Can you tell me, anyone? When I say 1, 2, 1 and 2, where the 30 is going to get saved? You can tell me based on this C and numeric number B, or whatever number we have, C2. C2. No. C2 is actually this column, which actually gives me 0, 1. C3, C4. Yeah, Iqbal got it. It's actually C4. Why? Because this is what? This and this, right? No. I made a mistake. It's 1 and 2. So 1 and 2 is this. 1 and 2. Oh, so my question was actually wrong. So this actually is your it's a limit, right? So there is no second column here, no column which is marked as 2. So this will give me array exception actually. So I should have said 2, 1. I was intent to do this. I just reversed the values. This is actually 2, 1. Right? So 2, 1 is this. And never mind, wrong question, wrong answers. It negates zero-sum game. Okay. Anyway, so my whole intention was to tell you this indexing, nothing else. That's how these indexes work, and that is how basically you need to work on it for filling in the value as well as fetching. For both the purposes, you're going to do this. Now there is a very basic understanding about it. Okay, that is regarding iteration of these arrays. So the simple principle which you need to understand is, if you have a single dimension of data collection, then you can iterate that using a single for loop, right? The single dimension means single for loop. But if you have 2 dimensions of data, that simply means you need 2 for loops, that 2 nested for loops. So if you ever are confused what is nested for loop and when to apply a single for loop, if you want to go through all of data one after another, right? If you are here, then you will always use a single for loop. So here, if you notice, there is only single for loop. Why? Because all I'm doing here is I'm filling the value and then I'm just printing the values, right? To print the values, I need to go through each and every cell here. Isn't it? So I am only going to use a single for loop. That is sufficient for me to iterate it. But that's not the case with 2-dimensional arrays. In 2-dimensional arrays, I need to have 2 for loops, that 2 nested for loops. So I cannot iterate a 2-dimensional array without having 2 nested for loops. As simple as that. And this is nested. I'm not saying consecutive. Nested, one for inside another. So one for is actually to iterate rows, and next one to iterate columns. So for example, if I say, if I just write the same condition here. So what I'm doing here is I0 till length. What is the length here? Length here is 2. That means it only will go for 0, 1. So 2 times it will iterate. Okay. We don't have it here. 0 and 1. So in the first iteration, it will go for the rows, and the second one, it will go for the columns. So in the inside for loop is for, you are at the first row, but the first row itself has an array, right? It's a collection of data. Then you have to iterate to the columns as well. So the first row is about rows, and second for is about columns. Okay. I'm not saying if you are new to it, then you will just understand it in a single glimpse or glance. It's not possible if you are not very familiar with Java or any programming language. The best way to visualize this is using this Excel. That's how I used to do it when I was learning this 11 years back. Or rather more than that, because we started with C and all. So this is how, because logic remains the same irrespective of the language, this is how we used to visualize it. And even if we didn't have Excel file, we used to open a copy, and the copy you can really create two-dimensional, because we have horizontal lines, and all you have to do is to create vertical lines, and then you can just iterate the loop in the head in your mind and just try to fill in values. Okay, that's the best way to visualize. And right now is the time to do that, because once we go ahead with the course, we're going to learn a lot of different heavy concepts. And if you're weak in these things, a simple problem will be a huge colossal problem for you. So I'm just putting too much stress in this, because this is true logic development. This is how true logic building happens. So don't worry, we have examples for nested for loops for iteration of arrays. We're going to do a few things. It's not that only for two-dimensional array you're going to have a two-dimension or two nested for loops. For a single dimension, you also sometimes might have to apply two nested for loops. There's a reason behind it that we'll talk about in few examples later. Okay. So far, any issue, anything which you didn't understand, or you're finding it very difficult or complicated, and you're kind of scared, kaise hoga ye, pata nahi kya pata diya aaj. Anyone having such kind of feeling? You can be very, very transparent with me. That is like the again, as I always say, the most important thing, because I need to know how you're feeling. How much you're getting, that's okay, but how you're feeling is also important to me. Yeah, someone wants to say something. Okay. Anyone wishes to say something? No? Okay, so what I was saying, I need to know how you're feeling, because that is, again, guys, give me a minute. My battery might go down quickly. Let me just connect the charger. Yeah, all right. So yeah, so what I was saying, that I need to know how you're feeling, because if you're feeling scared, I might help you with that. Okay, so don't hide it from me that it's not working, or I'm feeling sad about it. I'm not really understanding it. Right, whatever it is, you really need to tell me. You can personally ping me or chat, or even here you can first try to do a private chat to me. Anyway, so if no answer, so I'm assuming people are happy. Okay, now let's move forward. I promise to go fast, but really I can't help it. I need to explain things in detail. So it doesn't matter. Time is not that important. Understanding is important. So never mind. So now if you understood what it is, let me just remove the syntax errors at least. I will just check this code in. Not okay, so maybe I'll change the values or perhaps something of that sort. Now, let me go to next example. Enough on this example specifically. Let me go to our next example. Next example, this was the first. Now next is again something similar, but with a specific purpose, right? So in the previous one, this was all about simple iteration of array. But here we are doing something else. Can anyone just read the code? Can everyone read the code and tell me what really is happening? And it's not Vision IT 8 and 9. Anyone can pitch in. Forget that rule that you can't speak. You Vision IT 8 as well as 9, you can even ask questions. So can anyone tell me what really is happening in this code?
We are just storing 5 subject marks in a single array and calculate the total as well as average of that mark.
Yeah, right. So here we have a purpose. So purpose of iteration. In the previous case, the purpose of iteration was nonsensical. Because we were first filling the values, and then we were kind of iterating and printing it. So it was nonsensical, just for demonstration. But in the test 2, we have a purpose. The purpose is we have data in array, what happened to my typing? We have data in array. Then we are iterating to give us sum and average. Basically, all I'm doing is to add these values and then finding the average as well. So to add these values, I need to get these values, right? If I want to add all of these values, I need to get the values first. To get the values first, I need to go to that specific cell. To reach out to that specific cell, I really need to iterate it. So I can do it in two ways. The very simple way of doing it is this. It will be like the total is equal to ARR 0 plus ARR 1 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And note this, if this, okay, this is, there is a 5 value, sorry. And note this, the size is 6, but the index goes only till 5 because I'm starting from 0. I hope you guys understand this. So this is one way. So in this case, you don't have to do a for loop. Why would you need a for loop? It will just give you a total. And this might be a best way to do it in these circumstances. But what if the values are, the array have 100 or 1,000 values? Then you can't do it. Then you really have to iterate it. So this is a mechanism to iterate an array using a for loop. The simple way how a for loop is implemented is, again, you know the syntax how for loop works. Only thing to explain here is the length part. The length gives you the total length. How are you going to get? You do a dot and you're going to see a length here, right? The length is a method present inside array, kind of the only useful method present inside array, which will give you the length of how many elements we have in that array, right? And it doesn't consider it as a 0 or something. It just gives you the value as 6. Okay. Now here is the logic. So as I was focusing on the logic part, isn't it? So knowing arrays and how arrays work is one thing, but how to use arrays and along with for loop to iterate it as well as to get the total, right? So the logic part really comes here. This is the logic part. What's happening is the total is 0. Initially total is 0. But with each iteration, I am accessing the value of array with its index, right? So when I is 0, this gives me 0 here. And then the total is 0. So I'm going to save ARR 0 with the total, which gives me 99, because ARR 0 is 99, total is 0. Okay. In the next iteration, 1, I'm going to get this value, because then I becomes 1 in the next iteration. When I becomes 1, ARR I, which is ARR 1, becomes 99. Then the total is actually 99, because in the previous iteration, total became 99, because in the total we saved this. Okay. So now the total, that is the previous value, the previous sum, and the new value is going to get added. And whatever is going to get added and whatever is the result is again going to get saved inside total. So the total will keep on increasing with each iteration. In the first iteration, total will be this. In the next iteration, total value will be this, addition of these two. Third iteration, total value will be addition of these value, and that's how it's going to go ahead. So this is how basically, this is what I meant to say when I said logic building. This is logic building. Okay. This is what we need to understand and practice and see how this is going. If you're not getting it, there are only two ways. Don't just try to look at it and try to understand it. You will not get it. If you're doing it for the first time and not very familiar with it, if you just by reading the code try to understand, you will not get it. So don't be, misunderstand this. Okay, the concept, if you want to understand, you have to visualize it. Visualization is the only quality which humans has, which actually made us, what should I say, the top-notch species on this planet. Visualization. So you need to learn how you can visualize this. To visualize this, you really have to make use of pen and paper, or you can use an Excel file. to see what is the values and how they are going and changing. And the best way I always say is using debug. So if you want, I'll just try to, just quickly try to show a debug again on this. So just quickly put a for, if you really want to visualize. If you're getting this, then no need. But if you want to visualize this, then you can simply go here and you can start typing ARR, what else, what I need? Okay, ARRI, and what else? Total, right? So now you can start visualizing. You can, by each iteration, see what will be the value of all of these. So right now, there's no value of I because the item to code is not yet triggered. The moment I do a resume, it's going to say 0, ARR I becomes 99, total is 0. Next slide, let's run resume. You see let me just run it again, resume. So I becomes 1, ARR is 99 because ARR is again 99 and the total is 99. The moment I run this, it's going to change. So 99 plus 99, total has been saved, total is increased, ARR becomes again 99, I is 0, right? So this is how basically it will just keep on going. You can visualize. All I'm telling you is to visualize it. See, it's getting changed again and again and again with each execution. Okay, this is the way you can really understand. This is a simple for, but what if you want to visualize how a for loop is, or nested for loop is working, right? This really becomes handy in such circumstances. Let me just quickly go back. And I will stop the execution. Did I? No. All right. So this is how I'm doing a total. And once I get the total, I can easily find the average of it because average is all, it's a formula which we are simple formula, no rocket science here. Array.length gives you the total number of values there. And this is the total. Let me go back. Let me go to next one. Test 3, which is, again, it is just a simple demonstration to tell you how, basically two things. One is, previous example which you saw were about integers. We were keeping integers, but what if you want to save different type of data? So you can do it in this way. So double, this data is double. That means if you want to store decimals values, then you're going to use double or float. So this is how you're going to initialize it or declare it. So double, new double 5. Then the values I'm going to save, this is pretty much the same. Now, here I'm using enhanced for loop. Now, enhanced for loop is what we have discussed in previous classes. So if you're doing it for the first time today, let's say you haven't attended previous classes or didn't even watch the video, then I really can't help it because you have to go and through. I can't again exercise. I can't waste time in further explaining how the enhanced for loop works. But the simple idea is, I'm going to iterate through each and every entity or cell here. So I'm saying DARR, right? DARR or double array. So I'm going to go through each element in DARR. This is what I'm saying. And with each iteration, the value of that array at that moment is going to get saved inside D. And when I say simple D, it will print me the output. Okay. Sorry, I said that I won't explain this. So I can still explain it. So I don't know how much of you understand this, what's really happening here. Okay. Again, if you are doubtful, try debugging. It's the best way you can understand what's happening. But the logic is pretty much simple. I'm not using integer I less than a dot length I plus plus. This is another way of iterating. And this is based on element by element wise. It will automatically increment. So I don't have to put integer, etc., integer I and all. It can directly just something like while, right? The way while works, it doesn't have a iteration I counter. The same way this NS for loop works, but something with extra feature of this, that it can save with each iteration. It can save the value of that iteration inside a variable of that type, double, and it will print the value. I mean, you can get the value and you can do stuff with it, whatever you wish to do. Same thing here. So if it is a different type, let's say character. So all you have to do, how you will implement enhanced for loop is by this, like this. So you will say char, C and you put a colon, and then you type the name of the variable or name of the data structure here. So in this case, it's array. If I'm going to save integer, then all I have to do is create a for, put integer. Or let's say if I want to show this in implementation, perhaps in this case, let's say if I want to iterate this, what I would have done is I could have done this. So this is type of integer. This is the integer, right? That simply should have written int, and I should have mentioned the name of the variable. That's it. So it will just do exactly the same thing which this loop is doing. So I'm not putting any I here. It will just directly loop me through. This is called as enhanced for. Okay, pretty good stuff. Pretty good looping mechanism. This comes very handy when you want to iterate through collections, because in few of the collections you don't have counters, right? So enhanced for are very handy there. Now this is test 3. Let me go back to this one. So I would have asked you what is happening here, but it's already written. I'm trying to find the largest element in the given integer array. Now this is sometimes back, and still sometimes this is the first question an interviewer could ask you to check how your logic is. How to find largest element in a given integer array. To find the largest element, you need to go to each and every element one after another. That means you have to iterate it. And while you iterate it, you need to do something, right? You need to validate whether it is the largest, right? So again, kind of sort of logic here. Logic simply says, I will first save the largest. I will assume that this is the largest. And then in each iteration, I'll try to change my opinion, right? As the saying goes, as the data change, I change my opinion, right? So here the data is changing with each iteration, and with each iteration, I am comparing whether my assumption was right or not. If my assumption is right, that means don't go inside the loop. If my assumption is wrong, then I will have to go inside the loop and modify the value of the largest variable. So simply, if I just do a dry run, then I will say 10. So now value of largest is 10. Then in the first iteration, I equal to 0. So I'm not going to start with I equal to 0, because I equal to 0 I've already assumed as largest. I'm going to start the loop with I equal to 1. So it will in the first iteration, it will pick the value as 20. So in this here, what will happen? What will the condition going to be while execution? 10 is less than 20, which is a true condition. 10 is indeed less than 20. So it's going to come inside this condition. And now, as I said, as long as the data changes, my opinion changes. So assumption is changed. Assumption I made that largest is the AR 0, but it's not the case. Largest is 20. So in the largest, new value will be saved as 20. So in the next iteration, what's going to validate it? In the next iteration, I equal to 2, which is I equal to 2 is going to give me 30. So then 20 is saved in the largest, is going to get compared with 30. Again, a true condition. So again, data is changed. I'll have to change my opinion or assumption. So largest will become 30. Okay. See why I keep on reiterating this line. You have to visualize this, otherwise you will not understand it. So if it is easy for you to understand, very good. If it is not, then don't fret. Try to visualize this using copy, pen, or the way I've shown you different ways of doing it. You can do it using Excel. You can do it using a copy on pen. You can do it using debugging, or you can try all three mechanisms to visualize how the values are being changed. That will really help you in your logic building. And logic building, trust me, logic building is what you're going to need when you actually go for interview. And even once you crack the interview, once you start working, it's the logic is going to come to your safety, not the syntaxes and all. Sometimes for a few of my students, it happened that they learned Java and they are now working in C#. And they were asked to start coding in C#. Right? So syntaxes never matter. It's always your logic. So this is how you're going to understand the logic. Once you realize these logic and you understand them, then in the next time you see these things, it will come real quick handy to you, and you can use these simple logic building blocks to develop more complex logic. So you want to become a good developer. You will not become a good developer just by learning syntaxes. So you can learn, when you watch this, if you watch this as a movie, you can really memorize. If you're good in memory, you can really memorize the syntaxes, how to declare an array, how to create a for loop, but you will not get the logic. Logic you will only get when you actually do it. This is my own learning experience, is what I'm trying to share with you. This is how I learned, and this is how I think is the best way to do. So I will recommend you guys to do as well the same. Now let me go back here again, the same example, but this time I'm trying to look for smallest. Logic still remains the same. Logic still remains the same. The smallest, same I'm doing, but this time you see this is opposite direction. This is in opposite direction. All right. Now I'll go. By the way, they called Iqbal. Your office is going to start at 4, is it?
No, I had time.
Oh, okay. Thanks. So I'm going to take another I think 10 to 15 minutes more. Okay. Just be with me. If there's any issue anyway, you can drop in between. Okay. So, but I'll try to at least cover this much, at least this and few of these classes. Anyway, so test. This is about. Forgot where I was. Yeah, so this was for smallest, nothing to explain. It's like pretty much same as largest to find largest number. Now this one is again a good example. This one is to find out whether a specific element is present or not, like checking the existence of something. If you're from computer background, you must have heard or must have studied a topic called as data structures. And in data structures, you must have learned about complexities, right? With O notation, N notation, right? There you must have heard about search algorithms, sort algorithms, right? Just to give you, I should say, a perspective to look at this example. So in this case, I'm trying to go for a search. There's no specific algorithm here. I mean, there is an algorithm. All code has an algorithm. So simple algorithm is it's a linear search. I'm just going one after another. I'm just iterating each and every element and checking for a specific value called as, which is saved inside search. Again, it's pretty simple thing, iterating, then checking whether the search has the value, the current value is equal to the search, which is 50, is equal to the current value of the iteration. If it is true, then mark B is equal to false and break the loop. That means you have found the smallest value. Okay, so this is how you basically break. Once you find the smallest value, you are going to kind of break it. Again, no hard logic here. It's quite simple. All I want is you to try it out, see how it works, how it goes with you. You might ask a question about what is this Boolean and all. I'll leave this up to you. Try to remove this and see what happens. Nothing would really happen, but it would also give me some perspective about if the element is not available, then this comes handy. Just to add another functionality. Otherwise, it's not doing much here. Just to tell the user about the availability. If the element is not present, then the code will not say anything. If the element is present, it will say something. But if the element is not present, it should also say something that element is not present. So this logic is about that. This is Boolean B equal to marking it B equal to false and B equal to putting this inside a if condition has a specific purpose. So try to do it and identify whether it's really necessary or if it could be done in any different way. Just try to identify that. Now this is test 6. Now I'll go to test 7. Now this is sorting mechanism. This is example of a bubble sort. Okay, so if you have learned about algorithm, I was talking about algorithms previously. So I was also talking about in the beginning that if it is a 2-dimensional array, you need a 2 for loop, but if it's a single dimensional array, you need 1 for loop. But I was saying this in a context where you have to just iterate it. But in this case, I don't only have to iterate it. I have to iterate it multiple times. And that is the algorithm or sorting algorithm which I'm using here. In this sorting algorithm, I have to iterate it multiple times. Okay, so this is how the logic goes. I'll try to explain this in using how to explain this. Okay, let me perhaps take a screenshot and let me stop my share and let me I have to share. I can't share that alone. So I will new for clipboard. So I can draw something here, it seems now. Okay. So how it goes is I'll just try to explain this using some lines. So this is my first iteration. So one first for loop here. This is my first iteration. Now, once I'm in the first iteration, I'm going to compare the values with one another. How many values are there? Okay, only 4 values. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've drawn more. So each vertical line here represents a cell. Try to understand this as a cell. So in the first iteration, the 0th iteration, these two values will be compared inside this for loop. Okay, so this for loop will be comparing two values. This will be compared by this. If the difference between them is, since this is an ascending order, so the comparison will happen. If this is bigger, the first number is bigger and this is smaller, it's going to swap. So this is how the swapping works, right? This is the swapping part. So if this is bigger, then it will come inside. If condition, this is bigger, it will come inside. It will store it in a variable and it will just swap it. Then these two will be compared. Then these two will be compared. Then these two will be compared. So by first iteration, we will get the smallest number at the top, because every time we do it, it will just keep on swapping, right? Swap hote parent number pe aa jayega. Now in the second iteration, which is this second iteration, the same process will happen again. Why? Because again, the second iteration, it will come into this for loop, and again, these two numbers will be compared. These comparisons will happen. Okay, this will keep on being compared. Okay, now in the third iteration, and what will happen in this iteration? The second most smallest will come at the second position. So in the first iteration, the smallest will come at the top. In the second iteration, the second most smallest will come at the top. And this is how it's going to happen with each iteration. So with each iteration, this will be constant. This will come in the iteration. This will come as a third smallest. In which each iteration, after end of the iteration, the whole array will be sorted, but the mechanism in all of this iteration will be the same. First iteration, this is the first iteration. Using this for loop, this part will happen. Then again, next iteration is, so this for is representing this, and this is representing these inner comparisons. Okay, now I'll not say this is very easy to understand. I'll not say that. Let me show you. I don't have it handy, but I should have. But let me show you. There's a very very visualized sort way of explaining this. Bubble sort visualization, perhaps. Bubble sort visualize algorithms. Hacker Earth visualizer. Array size, let's say, is 8. Layout, let's say, is bar. Run. You see this? This is a very good way of understanding what's happening. With each iteration, it's actually seeing the steps. It's also showing you the steps. So it's the seeing, comparing the values. If they are found to be, different or smallest, it will just it will just swap it. So you can visualize this by like this. See, I'm just clicking on this button. It's just telling me in how many. It's also telling me the steps. It has already calculated the steps. So in 63 steps, it's going to compare everything and it will swap it. This is so the different sorting mechanism, bubble sort, selection. Sometimes this is also for the Vision IT 8 people at least. They might ask you about this, and there is some complexity associated with it. O(n) square and all those things. So try to go through that as well. Just memorize something you have. Sometimes you have to memorize different kind of sorting algorithms here. This is not a very good. I've witnessed a very good example. Bubble sort visualization. Let's see. Let me open multiple. Come on. Okay, this was it. Sort. Go. See, what you are seeing here is an algorithm. Okay. So here, if you see, we have two for loops, right? So they have written it in a do while. So do while is the first for loop, and inside for is a inner for loop. See how it is doing it. If it is finding it, then it's swapping. It's not finding that comparison, then it's not swapping. So after each iteration, this is actually the smallest is going to be the first. The next small is going to be the next iteration. The third iteration. That this is what is the result third iteration. So see, this is how it's doing, and you can actually see what's happening. You can do a slow also. You know why all these tools are there? Just for you to visualize it. So visualization of the logic is of utmost importance. This is what I've been saying since the first class, and again today also I've tried to say this multiple times. And you need to learn how you can visualize a logic. Otherwise, you will never be able to understand it. So these tools are present there. These tools are available so that you can visualize what's happening. Okay, this was actually a descending one. So I think this is being sorted. I mean, this is what is happening here. So this is, it wasn't, our case was an ascending, this is descending. So it's first doing the comparison of left and right. If it is greater than, then this is being, in each iteration, this next value is getting sorted here properly. 38, then next one will be this. This is actually a sorted value. So in bubble sort, this is how it happens. Okay, I've spent too much time in it. Maybe I'll just, for your benefit, I will just put it how you can visualize. To visualize, go here, or you can just Google. I mean, I saw very good visualization. I don't know where it is, but it was superb. Very good animation. These all are like nothing in front of that. If I'll find it, I'll send it. But I think this is enough. You can use them to do your stuff. Now again, not a huge example. To find the sum of even number in the given array. Now again, a problem statement. So this is also important part. Sometimes all you have is an right now you have a problem statement and a solution both. But sometimes you all you have is a problem statement. You need to reach out to a problem. You reach out to a solution in code using a problem statement. So here, simple problem statement is the sum of even number in a given array. So you have to find how many are there in this array which are even, and only if it is even, only then find a sum of it. So here it's simple. Since you need to find a number of how many even numbers are there, you need to iterate it. So for there has always a need of a for loop, and then you need to put a condition there that once ARRI percentage here means modulus, this gives me a reminder. If it is divisible by 2, then the remainder will be 0. And if this is true, then do a sum. So logic, remember the logic of sum is the same. So, but I'm running that logic only inside if condition. Previously, I was finding sum of all. So there was no if condition. There was a single code like this. But this time I only have to add the even numbers. So that's why I have to put this logic of addition inside my if condition. All right, so I'm walked you through these specific examples. I wanted to do this as well, but I'll not go through it today. Let me just go through it quickly so that if there is something important, I could talk about it. Because it's a good, I have the potential to talk about a lot of things by these examples. That's why I need to find dedicated time for it. So I'll do it next time. It's again related to arrays, but this time we are not saving integers or strings. We are just saving an object. which is no different than how you're going to manage a simple array, but little bit different concept, because previously we are saying ref 0 is equal to 10, but this time we are saying ref 0 is equal to new employee. Just a way, look and feel and taste of how you're going to save an object inside an array. Okay, and what else? Right, we have a method called a sort, so it can be saved from using sort, bubble sort. You can simply write sort. So you're going to talk about it tomorrow, maybe. Let's not do it today. What else? Okay, now few things here as well. Arrays we have discussed. Okay, so when I will conclude the arrays, then I will talk about these statements. So there are few things to talk about here as well. Okay, okay, guys. I really don't have much to say on arrays. I do have something to talk about other than arrays, so I'll do that. But before I jump onto that, can you guys let me know if you have any questions? No? Okay, thank you. So I'm going to. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, Bhushan.
Sir, here we are using array.length method each and every time, but
Yeah.
instead of that we can directly specify the length of that array, means that 5.
Okay, I can understood. Uh, so yeah, very good point. Yes, you can do that. It's not that you can't do that. You can do it. You can just simply say 5. But that's not advisable. The reason being, we need to have some dynamism. That means, irrespective of how many elements I'm going to add there, I don't have to make changes in 2 places. For example, this is the code. It's somewhere down. Okay. Now you had 5 values because you initialized it as 5. And here, since you knew that you have added 5 values, तो आपने यहाँ पे 5 लिख दिया, which is fine, right? It will work just fine. But what if someone else came and he said, okay, I need to add another value. So what he will do? He will simply say this. He will say 60. And then he will say 5. Okay. And since there is another value being added here, so I will also say something like 6 here. Okay. So the person who is going to make changes is only aware about this. So he just entered his data. But the moment he did that, he has actually introduced a bug. The bug is, now if you forget about this, the loop will not take 60 into consideration. Okay. So the good practice, as a good practice, you need to do things in a very dynamic fashion, so that if, let's say, instead of this 5, I would have written here length dot length, that then there will not be any issue. No matter how many entries someone is making here, he never have to go here and make changes. Right now it looks simple because it's a 50-line code. What if this class file has 2000 lines of code, right, with 100 of methods, and you just don't know where my data is being iterated? What will happen then? Then you inadvertently would induce a defect in your code, and you won't even realize that you have inserted a code. That's how big fiasco happens, right? Bugs getting leaked inside production, then whole site is down for a day, business is lost. You have heard of these scenarios. We're going to talk about these things when we're going to talk about testing, and soon enough we are going to have some sessions on testing also, because essentially we are not developers, we are going to become an automation testers. So we need to have testing familiarity as well. So we're going to talk about these, what you can lose when you write a buggy code. But to stop yourself from making these mistakes, these small mistakes, it's always good to bring level of dynamism. So now my code is actually dynamic. No matter how many values I'm going to add here, this is always going to get me the right length at runtime. I don't have to modify this value. Okay. I hope I answered. Okay. Can we change the size of an array? Okay, that's a good question. Can we change the size of an array? No, you can't. This is a limitation of using an array. So once you have said it is 6, I mean, you can change it at compile time. It's not that you can't change. You can change it to 7, but this is compile time change. This is not real runtime change. When we talk about the limitation of arrays, it is actually this, that you can, once you've declared an array to be of a size, let's say the size is 6, then you really cannot modify the value. You cannot say, okay, now I need more values, more elements. And that's why we really rarely use arrays in our code. In real frameworks and coding world, no one uses array. I mean, very specifically, there's a very specific need or specific circumstances when you know that your data is going to be fixed for you and you are dead sure that it's going to be fixed. Only then cases you use arrays, which has very limited applications. But mostly because of this limitation, you always use array list, because array list is dynamic. You can at runtime add elements to it. That we're going to talk about when we do collections. If we still have some time before we jump onto collections. I hope, Snehal, I answered. Now next is here. Okay, Sarang saying something. Okay. Year length is not a method. We can say okay. All right. So I hope I have answered all the things, and trust me, once you do these examples, test 1, test 2, test 3, I'm going to give you a assignment as well, separate assignment. But after that assignment, once you're done with it, you also have to try this. And rather, before you attempt that assignment, you try doing this first. Try to do it on your own first, okay? And then you go and try do an assignment. Once you do that, if you do it genuinely and you do it honestly and you do it passionately, then I'm damn sure that you're going to come up with a lot of questions, because you're going to get stuck. A lot of things are going to happen. You will not understand what's happening. Then WhatsApp group will be full of questions. Only in the situation when you are not trying enough, only then the WhatsApp group is empty. No one speaks anything there, except then thumbs up when I publish something, right? Okay, so this brings me to the end of the arrays. So I'll stop the recording. But I do have something to talk about, so please stay online 1 minute.